Hello everyone. Welcome to today's vinyasa. We're just going to begin with a nice simple flow to open up the body and free from ourselves from the attachments of the mind. I invite you to get any props that you might like. So 2 blocks are what I'll be using today. Feel free to grab some cushioning for underneath the seat or the knees, and any sort of blanket that you might like for the behind the neck in Shavasana. And today I want to get us started on our hands and knees. So shoulders over wrists, hips over knees, just a nice gentle tabletop, really engaging through the core, keeping our spine neutral. And then you can slowly walk the hands about a foot in front of you now. If you want, if you know you have some tight shoulders, this is a great place to put some blocks underneath your hands or a block underneath the head. We're going to come into puppy pose. So gently just letting the chest melt towards the mat as the tailbone lifts towards the sky. Allowing your forehead to gently rest on the floor or the chin. Or you can stay upright and still you'll get a nice opening through the chest and the shoulders. And you can allow yourself to be passive here, arriving on the mat, noticing how your state of mind is, any of the energy that's stuck in your body, and just compassionately bring your attention to those areas that might need some opening today. And then gently walk yourself back up to a tabletop. You can swing the hips over all the way to the left, allowing them to almost touch the mat. And then you can just gently set them down and walk the left fingers a little bit away from you, getting a nice opening in this left side body, nice and passive. Maybe the right hand comes behind you as you look behind your body towards the right shoulder. And then bringing the right hand back down, coming back to a tabletop, and allowing the hips to swing over to the right, so allowing them to just fall until the right side body gently comes down to the mat. And then allowing the right side body to open up, leaning that right hand. Maybe the left hand comes behind as you look behind. And then coming back through to a neutral tabletop. We'll hug the belly in here, keeping ourselves stable as we come into bird dog. So reaching the right arm out in front of you. Feeling any shift that might have happened in the hips. Maybe you started dumping into the left side and just readjust. And then extend the left leg out behind you, firming up through that left glute, hugging through the belly. And then on an exhale, round the spine, hug the knee towards the elbow. Exhale. Extend it long. Inhale. Exhale, crunch it in. 3 more times. Inhale, extend. Exhale, bend and round. Extend. Widening through the fingertips. And round. Last time, extend. Hug it all in, knee taps the elbow. And then extend it long and place the hand and the knee back down. You can rock your hips side to side. Any movement that would feel good here. And then we'll take it on the other side. So first extending the left arm long. Hug the belly in. And then extend that right leg out behind. If you're wobbly here, it's okay. Maybe you put the knee back down and you just do this with the arm movement. You can still get a good crunch. Otherwise, on an exhale, release everything and round and tap. Extend and tap. Extend 3 more times and tap. Extend and exhale. Last time. Inhale. Exhale. Extend it. And then place it all down. And we'll go through a few rounds of cat and cow. So dropping the belly down, lifting the gaze, tailbone points up. And then exhale, round through the spine. Hug the belly button in, press the shoulder blades away from each other. And then let it all drop down, shoulder blades down the back, heart shines through for cow. Inhale, rounding cat. Exhale and tilt. And you can take a few more rounds at your own pace, maybe bringing the hips into this, so getting some swaying, rocking forward and back, whatever would feel good to you. Just warming up and opening up through any angles that need that awareness brought to them. And then coming back to neutral, we're going to do a little wrist stretch before we start. So walking the fingertips out away from you so they can be pointing towards the sides of your mat. Otherwise, if you want a little more, you can point them all the way back and keep walking the hands until they face towards you. So fingers face towards the torso, and then you can gently bring the hips back towards the heels. You can walk the knees in a little closer if you want, and then just sink back into the heels, allowing the wrists to open. You're gently swaying side to side, dropping the chin, releasing the jaw, and connecting with your breath. And then coming back onto the knees, walking the hands back forward, and then tucking the toes under, pressing through each big toe mound, and then pointing the tail towards the sky as you hug the belly and lift the knees off the mat and begin to straighten through the legs, coming into downward facing dog. So you can keep a generous bend in the knees if you're feeling a little tight in the hamstrings. It's our first down dog. And just begin to press through the balls of the feet, lift the toes up as you sink the heels down towards the mat. And then you can release the toes back down, pressing through each toe and lifting through the inner arches of the feet. Doing the same with the hands, so pressing through each fingertip, weight and power coming from that space in between the pointer finger and the thumb. Hugging the elbow creases towards one another, shining them forward to engage those outer shoulder muscles. And gently tilting the tail towards the sky, a little bending through one knee. Finding our home base here at down dog. And then you can look forward in between the thumbs, come high into the balls of your feet, bend the knees a little, and then begin to walk on your tiptoes until the feet come in between the hands for a forward fold, allowing the head to dangle. Maybe you grabbing for opposite elbows. Maybe you grab for behind the calves. A little micro bend at the knees. We're still getting warm here. And then rocking with it. Taking long and slow breaths, extending your exhales. And then allowing some weight to come more towards the backs of the feet into the heels. Feel that activation from the heels through the backs of the legs all the way to the glutes. And then bend the knees generously as you roll yourself up to stand or Tadasana, mountain pose. Shoulders come down the back, palms face forward. The eyes can close down. And you can bring your hands to heart center. We'll begin class with one Om. You can chant silently or join me. Take an inhale. Arms released by the sides. Bring any intention that you want for this practice to mind. And we'll begin greeting the sun, reaching the arms overhead, upward salute. And swan dive over the legs, folding down. Inhale, coming to our first halfway lift, so straightening through the back, bringing the hands about a foot in front of you, or to the shins, or all the way to the thighs, whatever allows you to keep a long spine. Pressing through the heels, hugging into the belly, and then folding once again. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the hands, step it back to a high plank. So you're hugging the belly back, you're strong through the arms, pressing energy through the heels to extend through the calf muscles and feeling the quads engage. At any point, you can bring the knees down. Otherwise, keep them lifted. And then we'll hinge forward on the toes, coming a little bit forward on the hands. Hug the elbows in as we lower all the way to the belly. And then release. Tops of the feet come down towards the mat. Walk the hands back an inch so that they're in line with your lower ribs. And then squeeze the elbows together as you lift the chest up for a low cobra. Squeezing through the glutes. And lowering back down. This time walk the hands a little bit further back. We'll lift all the way up for a high cobra. So straightening a little higher through the arms. Pressing down and back with the shoulders. And then lowering down to the mat. This time the option to go into upward dog so the hips lift. So as we press ourselves up, we lift through the hips, pressing the tops of the feet down, and then rolling over the toes. Hips go up and back for downward facing dog. So that's our sun A. You can always drop the knees down as you lower. And we can always add on to make it more challenging by putting in some chaturangas instead of going to the belly. And we'll feel that a few times to wake up through the whole body. So on an inhale, rise onto the toes. Step or hop in between the hands. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Rise high, arms overhead. Exhale, arms released by the sides. One round of breath. Inhale, reach the arms overhead, upward salute. Exhale, fold down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the hands, step it back to plank. Lowering halfway or all the way for chaturanga. Rolling over the toes, heart shines through for a low cobra or upward facing. Rolling up and back to downward facing dog. Release the breath. Finding your drishti, your gaze point in between the toes. Settling here in your practice. Becoming an observer to your body as it flows through the postures and movements. Rising high on the balls of the feet, step or hop to the top. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Rise high, upward salute. Exhale, arms release. One more time. Inhale, arms overhead. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step or hop back. Chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing or cobra. Exhale, downward facing dog. Pedaling through the feet. Coming high onto the balls of the feet, step or hop, top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Inhale, coming into chair pose, Utkatasana. So bend the knees, sink weight into the heels, reach the arms overhead as the shoulders come up towards the ears. Look down at the toes, lift them a little. You should have weight in the heels and see the toes lifting. And then place them down on the mat. Straighten through the legs, arms overhead. And then hands to heart center. Release the breath. Take a couple rounds of breath here. And then continuing with movement, reach the arms overhead, diving down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step or hop back, chaturanga, or lowering through plank. Inhale, upward facing. Exhale, downward facing dog. Reach the right leg out behind you for three-legged dog. Toes point down, hips stay square in the mat, so the right hip tends to lift a little, so just keep it pointing down. Press firmly through both hands, and then bend the knee so that the heel is hugging towards the glute. Bring the knee towards your chest, and then allow it to take a ride as you come forward through a plank, keeping the knee in close. And then drop that foot in between your hands. Keep the back heel lifted. Press firmly through that right heel as you rise on up for a high lunge. Now, you'll notice here if your hips are allowing the left hip to drift back, then keep a nice bend in that left knee so that the hips can stay square towards the front of the mat as you hug the belly in. And feel that left glute engaged as you hold it here. And then slowly, on a count of 5, we'll lower the back knee. 1, 2, 3, 4, hover it, and 5. Release the back toes. And then frame this front foot with your hands and begin to rock forward and back, straightening and bending through the right leg. And then allow it to stay straight. The right toes point up as you come into half splits. So you can stay up high on the fingertips here or fold gently over this leg. This is a great place to have blocks if you want to frame the foot. And then allow yourself to bow over the legs. Keeping the spine long. And then planting the right foot back down. Maybe you walk the back knee in a little. And then heel toe the right foot out to the outer edge of your mat. Maybe walk that back knee back. Coming into lizard lunge here. So get a nice opening for the left hip flexor and the right hip. And then maybe you allow the forearms to come down. Maybe the chest comes all the way towards the mat. Or you can have a block once again and rest your head on the block. You can rock a little in circles, keeping some warmth as we pressing back through the left toes, hugging in through our Uddiyana Bandha, that low core lock. And then wherever you are, walking yourself back up. And then maybe if you're feeling up to it, you start bending through the left knee as you hug the left heel towards the glute. You can stay right here. This is a great hamstring strengthener. Or if you're looking for more of a passive stretch, then you can reach back with the right arm, opening through the right shoulder. Reach back for the foot and hug it towards your torso. You can keep that left hand on a block to hug your torso up a little higher. It makes it a little easier to grab the foot. Or you can even just reach the arm back, and this will be more active and engage through the muscles rather than just passively coming into our joints. And then you can release the back foot, plant the hands, and step the right foot back to downward facing dog. Roll it forward through plank, lowering through chaturanga or to the belly. Coming forward to upward facing dog. And then rolling over the toes, lifting the hips up, downward facing dog. Couple rounds of breath. And then on an inhale, come high up to the toes and step or hop to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, fold. Utkatasana, chair pose, sinking back in the heels, reach the arms up. And straighten through the legs, arms release. Second side, reaching the arms overhead. And diving down over the legs. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, step or hop through the chaturanga, lowering. Inhale, heart opener. Exhale, downward facing dog. This time, reach the left leg high out behind three-legged dog. Toes and hips both point down. And then bend the knee, hug the left ankle towards the glute. And then allow the knee to come in towards the chest. And allow that left leg to hitch a ride on the chest as you roll forward through the plank. And then drop that left foot in between the hands and rise on up for a high lunge, reaching the arms overhead. Again, adjusting your hips by either bending that back knee or just using your arms to really steer yourself into alignment. Finding stillness in this strong pose. And then framing the foot. Reaching back up for high lunge. We'll slowly lower the back knee down on a count of 5. 5, 4, 3, 2, hover it, and 1, release. Framing that front foot, we'll rock back and forth a little, bringing heat into the left hip. And then when you feel you've gotten open. You can maintain a straight left leg as the toes point up. Maybe bring the heel a bit forward as you square the hips. And this is a great place to stay high on the fingertips, maintaining a straight spine, hugging the inner thighs together and activating those outer glutes. Or maybe get a little more lengthening as you either walk forward or bow down. Now, this is a great place to understand that length and strength are not mutually exclusive. So you can still keep everything active here and really feel yourself working to hold the shape without dumping into your joints, but you're still opening and lengthening through the muscle. And then walking yourself up, planting the left toes down, and then walking the left foot out to the outer edge of the mat, sinking the hips forward for lizard lunge. Maybe you come down to the forearms, or you just stay upright here and breathe into this opening, observing the way your body is responding to this shift in energy that we are circulating. You can bring some weight into the right hand. Maybe you look a little towards the left and feeling a nice opening in this right hip flexor. And then if you want a nice quad opener, maybe you begin to bring that right heel towards the right glute. You can either point the toes or keep them flexed. And then reaching forward with the left hand and then all the way back to grab for the inside or the outside, of the back foot. And just pull it towards you very gently, still hugging the hand. And if you release the hand, you should be able to keep the foot in the same position. It's more of just a little safety blanket, and it helps open that left shoulder. And then releasing the back foot, planting the hands, lifting the back knee, and then stepping the left foot to meet the right for plank pose. Again, always an option to drop the knees or skip the vinyasa. Otherwise, we'll lower halfway. Coming forward for our heart opener. And then hips go up and back, down facing dog. Reach the right leg high out behind, three-legged. And then step the right foot outside the right hand. And then keeping a firm plant of the hands, step the left foot outside the left hand and sink the hips down for Malasana squat pose. Keeping the spine straight. If this is a lot for the knees or the hips, you can always bring a block underneath your seat to support you. Or you can just sink yourself down onto the mat, walk the feet a little bit in front of you with the knees up, and then bring the elbows to the inside of the knees. It'll be still really open up those inner thighs, just a little less taxing on the knees and the hips. Maybe you sway left and right. And then planting the hands down, slowly straightening through the legs, keeping them pointed wide, but the toes can point forward. And then you can use your two peace fingers, so the middle finger and the pointer finger, to wrap around the big toes as you pull your torso down for a forward fold. Elbows can splay out wide. And you can sway the hips and the neck to just release any tension. And release any thoughts or judgments that are showing up. Then just planting the hands, heel toeing the feet together, toes touching. And then bringing your weight back into your heels, bend the knees and roll yourself up to a standing position. Tadasana. Once again, bringing that intention to mind that you began with your practice, or just bringing a nice mindful awareness to your experience of this moment. Reaching the arms overhead, upward salute. Diving down, forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the hands, step it back to plank. Lowering your way. Heart opener. Inhale. Exhale, downward facing dog. Lift the right leg up behind you, three-legged dog. Step the foot in between the hands and rise up for high lunge. Find your grounding, your footing, pressing through that right heel to activate the right glute. And then bringing the hands through to center, we'll begin to look over to the right as you twist through the spine. So notice that my right hip kind of shifted back there. We just want to keep those square to the front of the mat, hugging through the inner Uddiyana Bandha. And then begin to hinge forward. Maybe the left elbow tucks outside the right knee as your gaze goes up towards the sky for a twisting lunge. And then cartwheel the arms open, plant the back heel, coming to warrior two, bending through the right knee, torso points open towards the side for just a breath. And then reaching back with the left hand and up with the right. Reaching the left arm down the left leg for peaceful warrior. Opening through the side body. And then coming back forward. And we're going to come into a half moon pose. So leaning forward with the torso, the right hand leads us. This is a great place for a block if you know you might need some help with balance. Right hand comes down, left leg reaches up, and the left hip peels open so that your torso is like a page. One flat line of energy, peeling towards the sky, reaching your limbs out in all directions. Tuck that right hip underneath as you squeeze the glutes together and you lift up. And then we're going to try as slowly as possible to land back in warrior two. So bending through the right knee, ground the back heel, coming through to warrior two. And then bring the hands to the hips, straighten through the right leg, point the toes so that they're parallel to the other toes, both pointing towards the short edge of the mat, pointing forward. And then keeping the hands on the hips, but the fingers can face towards one another as you reach the elbows towards one another. Lift the heart towards the sky, and then keeping a flat spine, lowering down And then allowing yourself to just fall over the legs, keeping a micro bend in the knees for this wide-legged fold. Maybe walk your hands to one side, one leg, and then you walk them to the other. And maybe you walk your hands through your legs. Any variations that your intuition is calling you to play with here. And then beginning to bend into the left knee, right toes point up as the hips sink down, coming into Skandasana, squatting on the left side, and then opening the arms up so the right arm goes to the sky, the left arm reaches beyond that left knee, but the arm stays on the inside as you open up through the chest. And then planting the left hand down outside that left foot, bringing weight so that the right toes come down and they're flat on the mat. And then lift the hips up, the left foot will meet the right, coming into side plank on the left. Reaching the right arm towards the sky. You can always drop the left knee down for a supported variation. If you want more, you can lift that top leg. We'll hold here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Coming down, the right hand plants in a plank pose. You can flow through your vinyasa or just skip it. Kneading back in downward facing dog. I found myself backward there on the mat, so you can readjust if you'd like. Realigning to the breath. Coming high into the balls of the feet. Step or hop to the top of the mat. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, folding down. Weight in the heels, rise up. Upward salute. Hands come through the heart. Once again, reaching the arms overhead. Exhale, diving down. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, plant the hands, step or hop back through Chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing or Cobra. Squeeze in the shoulder blades, down and back. Rolling through to downward facing dog. Reach the left leg high, three-legged dog. Bend the knee, plant this foot in between the hands, rising up for a high lunge. Again, just subtly tucking the tail so that it's pointing down towards the mat. You do this through engaging through that Uddiyana Bandha, and you feel that natural pelvis neutralize and stabilize. And then bringing the hands to our center, begin twisting towards the left. Again, if you notice that that right hip is going to try and jump forward, and just readjust it and allow the twist to not come from the hips, but to come through the lumbar spine or that torso area. And then begin hinging forward. Maybe the right elbow just rests on that right quad. Maybe it hooks outside. A couple rounds of breath. And then cartwheeling open for warrior 2, planting that back heel down, opening to the side. Allowing the shoulders to rest down. And then flipping the front palm, reaching up and back with the left hand for Peaceful Warrior. So the right hand goes down my right leg, still hugging the rib cage in, the core is engaged. And then coming back up, launching into our half moon, so bouncing on the left foot. Left arm comes down towards the mat as the right leg reaches back, and then we peel that right hip open, and the right arm comes towards the sky. Pressing back through the right toes, through that heel to flex the foot, and then bending through the left knee as we plant it back for a warrior two. Before we straighten through the left leg, point the toes forward so that the feet are parallel. And this time we're going to come just briefly into a goddess squat. So pointing the toes outward and just bending through both knees. Shoulders are over hips, hugging the belly back. Arms come to a cactus. And we'll just bounce here for 10 pulses. So 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Straighten through the legs, reach the arms overhead. And release them down, just let it all go. One more time, just like that, reaching up overhead. Exhale, slap them down. And then interlacing the fingers behind your back, squeezing the shoulder blades together, reach the heart high. And then folding over the legs, squeezing those shoulder blades, keeping the palms together if you can. And then just letting it all go. And then allowing the hands to come towards the mat. Halfway lift here, coming up on the fingertips, flying through the spine. And then begin to bend into the right leg as the left toe is pointing up, and extend the left leg out a little further as you sink into that the right heel for Skandasana. You can open the arms out wide so the left arm comes up towards the sky as the right hand plants down on the mat. Again, a block underneath the seat is great here. And then keeping the right hand now planted outside the right foot, lift the hips up as the left heel comes down, right foot comes to meet the left for a side plank. So you can again drop the right knee for a supported variation, or you can stack the feet, lift the left arm towards the sky, and maybe even lift that top leg. Hold here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Drop the leg, roll the left hand down, and we'll flow through our vinyasa, meeting back in downward facing dog. And now we're going to make our way onto the back. So you can do so in any way that calls to you. If you're working on a jump through or you have one, you can come high into the balls of the feet, bend the knees, and then sneak your torso through. Hold it and lower yourself down. You can plant the feet. Now, about hips width distance, bend the knees. And plant the hands behind you. We're going to come into a reverse tabletop. So pressing through the heels, lifting the hips up, squeeze the shoulder blades as you lift your gaze up towards the sky. Squeeze through the glutes. You can release the neck if it feels safe. We'll hold it here for 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Lower the hips down, plant the feet, and then I'll lift the right foot up, cross the right ankle over the left knee. We're in this sort of figure 4 like variation. And then allow the knees to fall towards the left, the right foot plants down, and then hug that left foot towards your glute. So now the right foot is stamped outside of the left thigh, and we're in this sort of twisting pose. So we're gonna hug the right knee with the left arm as we reach behind with the right hand. And you can hook the left elbow outside the right knee for Ardha Matsyendrasana. Coming back towards center, we'll come into double pigeon or cow face legs. So you can drop that right knee down on stacking on top of the left. Bring the feet out a little wide. If this isn't working or the seat has lifted, you can bring a block or some cushioning, and that usually helps to allow the knees to stack. Otherwise, you can stack shin bones so that the knee is over the ankle, ankles over the knee, flexing the feet strongly, that hip opener. Or you can also extend the bottom leg long and only do one side. Whatever variation you take, just fold over the legs. And then you can walk yourself back up and then plant both feet down once again, coming into that figure 4 variation where the right ankle is crossing the left knee. And this time we'll plant the hands up behind us so fingers face towards you, lifting the hips up back into that reverse tabletop, and then extend the right leg up towards the sky, lift the hips up, and then plant the right foot down, lower the hips down towards the mat. Okay, once again, we'll clear it out with a reverse tabletop. So lifting the hips up, holding here for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and lower it down. This time crossing the left ankle over the right knee, not the actual knee, but just above it on the thigh, and then allowing your knees to fall towards the right as the left foot plants down, and then you can hug that right ankle towards your glute, and then the right hand comes behind, the left hand comes behind and you hug that left leg with your right arm. Look behind you, maybe you hook the elbow outside of the left knee, coming in for a twist. And then coming back forward to face the legs, allow the left knee to stack on top of the right, and just readjust through your hips so both sit bones are firmly planted on the mat evenly. You can walk the toes out towards the side a bit more. Again, any variation that you took on the other side, or this side might be different. Try out where you're feeling the opening, where there's any tightness, but also be conscious that we're not trying to force our body into any shapes. We're really just working with what our body is feeling today. So not projecting our expectations, our judgments, but just meeting what is with our own acceptance. Folding down, softening into the stretch. And then walking yourself back up. Planting the right foot down on the mat, left ankle is once again crossing over the right thigh for this sort of figure four. And we'll take this back into a reverse tabletop. So lifting the hips up, extending the left leg up towards the ceiling, pressing through the right glute, holding here. And then releasing the left leg down. Hips come down towards the mat. We'll take a little round of breath here. And then our last kind of exertion here for the practice, we'll take a 5 count in a reverse tabletop. Or if you want a little more, you can extend the legs long for reverse plank. So planting the feet down, lifting the hips up, and the chin can go towards the sky for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Lowering the hips down, pointing the toes towards the sky, extending the legs long. And we'll reverse that back bending with a gentle forward fold. So keeping your spine long, walking your torso over the legs, pointing the toes high, and just sinking into your depth. Walking yourself back up, and then removing some of the flesh from underneath the seat. Point the palms up towards the sky, and we'll slowly lower vertebrae by vertebrae down onto our backs. Palms can face upward. And I invite you to take any finishing postures that might be calling to you. Maybe it's a bridge, maybe shoulder stand, happy baby, anything that would feel complete for your practice. Otherwise, we'll meet for our finding resting pose in Shavasana, palms facing upward, melting into the mat, closing the eyes down, and just being with this moment, eternal now. Inviting some gentle movement back into the body, wiggling through the toes, maybe rocking the head side to side. Taking your time here to awaken back. You can extend the arms overhead to full body stretch. Maybe grabbing for the wrists. And then releasing the arms and rolling off to your right side into a fetal position. Feeling held by the earth. And then pressing yourself gently up into a seated position, keeping the eyes closed. Bringing the hands to heart center. The light in me honors and sees the light in all of you. Together we bow to close our practice. Namaste. Thank you all for joining me, and I hope that you bring some of this stillness and energy throughout the rest of your day, your week, and wherever you are in the world right now.